Like, who? Does anybody try to be dumb?
Mitchell, posterizes the big, throwing it down on McGee. And then Gobert comes back.
And just like that, it happened. Spyder Mitchell, who we 1000% started off calling Spadad based off his Twitter handle, has become an all-star in just 3 short years. But did you remember that Utah didn't even originally draft him? How about the fact that he was drafted 13th overall? Yeah, the guy that helped lead his team to the second round of the playoffs as a rookie was somewhat of an afterthought throughout his entrance into the league. So how did that happen? And how are the careers of those taken before him progressing so far? Make sure to listen up with Audible. The year is still young and some of you may be working on your goals and/or resolutions, and no matter what those are, you're guaranteed to find the perfect audiobook at Audible to motivate and inspire you. Whether it's getting physically fit, financially fit, it's all on Audible. As it relates to you all, a great listen would be Kobe Bryant's biography Showboat. We all know that Kobe was one of the hardest workers at his craft on this planet, so choosing this as a listen may help you find some gems for yourself. Audible members can choose 3 titles every month, 1 audiobook and 2 exclusive Audible originals you can't hear anywhere else. Members also get access to exclusive guided fitness programs to help start the new year off right. You can listen on any device, anytime, anywhere. At home, the gym, your commute, or just on the go. You'll also enjoy easy exchanges for any audiobook you don't love and an audiobook library you keep forever, even if you cancel. Start listening with a 30-day Audible trial. Choose 1 audiobook and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. And to do so, visit audible.com/dom2k or text dom2k to 500-500. Once again, that's audible.com/dom2k. The link is also in the comment section and description. Donovan Mitchell didn't exactly have the most impressive college career. 2 years as a Louisville Cardinal, 7 points in 20 minutes the first year, 15 on shaky efficiency the next, but definitely showed some flashes that would make it difficult for too many teams to look past him. Also, his wingspan was impressive, and those are always gold mines for prospects. However, there was the perceived issue of his actual size. At around 6'2" with handles that weren't thought to be at a starting point guard's level, it caused teams to believe his ceiling wasn't going to be incredibly high. Sure, he'd be able to give you a nice scoring punch, but the centerpiece of a team, that was seen as a tall task, especially in a draft where there were multiple names that would supposedly fill that role. Consequently, not only did he fall to Denver at 13th, he was then traded to Utah for Trey Lyles and the 24th overall pick. Be mindful that they already had and were developing both Gary Harris and Jamal Murray, so it's not likely Mitchell would have gotten the correct exposure there. Nonetheless, certain franchises are wearing this L even just a few years later, so let's see how everybody held up. Philadelphia kicked things off by selecting Markelle Fultz, and revisionist history is a very easy thing to do. This is obviously not where we saw his career going 3 years later, but at the time, multiple top teams in the draft, including my own Celtics, were looking for a way to get their hands on what looked like a promising prospect. Of course, things went less than subpar in Philly, but I've gotta be honest, I never did like the idea of him playing shooting guard next to Ben Simmons anyways. After years of a shooting issue that still remains a mystery, he finds himself in Orlando revitalized, which is strange because that's usually where over-the-hill stars take their careers to die. It's been just the opposite for Fultz, however, who now starts, averages 12 points and 5 assists, and has refused to show a break in confidence despite having one of the more tragic starts to a first overall pick's career. He's only 21 years old, so despite the first 2 years of struggle, there's no reason to give up on him just yet. Mitchell on the Sixers is a scary idea given that they already had both Simmons and Embiid, but let's not kid ourselves. A, would he have developed so quickly next to those two? And B, somebody would have gotten fired in 2017 for taking him over any of these first 3 picks. The Sixers could be doing better today, but I doubt they're losing sleep. The Lakers were only ever going to choose one guy once it got to this point, and that of course was Lonzo Ball. Well, 2 guys, cause LeVar was somewhat of a package deal. This all came at a really weird time anyways because it was just 1 summer before they signed LeBron James, and once that began brewing, it seemed as if any young prospect by that point was going to be collateral in some trade. Spoiler, they were. That sent Ball to New Orleans after just 2 short and disappointing years with the Lakers, and despite people pulling the bust card out just a little over a month ago, things have turned around in a hurry. His 3-point shot looks significantly better than the confusing canning he debuted with, and he now shoots 36% from 3. So as of late, he looks way more comfortable, although his season stats won't necessarily tell you that. You've got to watch him play. Either way, he seems to be in the perfect place. You rarely hear from LeVar anymore, the Pelicans are full of young talent, and full court Zoe to Zion lob seemed like the move going into the future. With the current roster, he won't have so much pressure to be some superstar, and I think with health, he'll be helping lead New Orleans to prominence in a short time. The Celtics selected Jason Tatum third, and we're happy, fam. We are happy. He too is an all-star, first time this year, and I'm obligated to mention that he's only 21 years old, so the future looks bright. I think the Sixers would actually be more troubled over missing out on Tatum than Mitchell if you're talking about the fit. The Celtics simply had no reason to take Mitchell at a time where both their guard positions were filled. I even remember wondering what their plan was if they were going to go after Fultz and pair him with then starting point guard Isaiah Thomas. Either way, Boston missed nothing here so far. Oh, however, we can't really say the same for Phoenix. They chose Josh Jackson, whose career has pretty much been a train wreck if you're comparing it to the projections. Some scouts were calling him the best prospect they'd ever followed, so it's not hard to see why the Suns spent their fourth pick trying to pair him with Devin Booker. With that being said though, this is totally a hindsight thing. If the consensus was that Mitchell didn't have the handles to play the point consistently, but was also a bit too small for the two, then it simply wouldn't have made sense to try to make a pairing out of him and Booker, especially not over Josh Jackson. But still, this is one of the biggest flameouts for a top 5 pick in recent memory. He spent just 2 seasons with the Suns before making his way to Memphis, where he's currently played 3 games and started none. As a matter of fact, his off-court troubles have been a way bigger story than the ones on-court. At this pace, it's hard to imagine he'll be around the league much longer. However, as always, we wish these guys the best with their journeys, especially when they're this young. Rounding out the top 5, Sacramento went with De'Aaron Fox for their guard, and it's hard to say that they're disappointed. I mean, the Kings are disappointing, but at this rate, he seems like he's got an all-star appearance brewing in his future. Well, all-star play. It might not be possible to actually get those votes in the West while he's on the Kings. Either way, he's shown improvement every year, and he currently boasts averages of 20 points, 7 assists, 2 steals, and shoots nearly 50% from the field as a point guard. That's impressive, and it's fair to say that he's lived up to expectations. The Kings as a team probably wouldn't be that good regardless of if they had chosen Mitchell. Still, I don't know of a large crowd that would have supported that decision back in 2017. Jonathan Isaac, your yearly draft prospect that was drawing KD comparisons. Well, he's definitely had the physical tools, and has also shown good improvement in each of his 3 years. He was one of the league's best defenders up until the point that he got hurt this season, and if his offense ever picks up to match that, he'll easily become one of the best players to come from this draft. Remember, he's only 22 and this draft was in 2017. Just because it hasn't happened as fast as other guys doesn't mean it isn't on the horizon. Also, players have habitually broken out once they've escaped Orlando, so look out for that as well. Nonetheless, Mitchell has obviously been the better player up to this point, and still, I wouldn't have put my money on him being the same player if he started his career with the Magic. Again, it's a track record of these guys leaving and blooming. Or maybe he would've, and the Magic just yet again missed out on a franchise cornerstone. With their luck, probably. Lorrie Morgan, taken by Minnesota, dealt to the Bulls, showed extreme promise the first 2 years, and is currently a part of the circus in Chicago. I don't know what exactly the plan is there with the player development and then Jim Boylan, and I won't pretend to know. I do know, however, that Markkanen has a skill set suited for today's league, and I think he'll be one of the better players in the draft once he's in a better situation. Mitchell isn't really relevant here because Minnesota tried to hit a home run that draft anyways, packaging Lauri Markkanen in a deal for Jimmy Butler, so they had no plans to deal with what might have been a slow process by taking Mitchell. They were trying to compete at the moment, and that still hasn't worked out. The New York Knicks selected Frank Nil Aquinnah, better known as just Frank, with the 8th pick, and Jeff Hornacek had to damage control that one immediately. He was asked why they took Frank over guys specifically like Dennis Smith, who eventually made his way to New York to rot, and Donovan Mitchell. He responded that it was about the long-term vision. He mentioned that Frank had great size and length, which appealed to scouts on defense. He also commented on how the NBA would be totally new to him being an international prospect. Meanwhile, guys like Mitchell had grown up playing the NBA style. I guess that meant that Frank was like a blank page or something, and they could control him more. I thought NBA ready was what you might want in a prospect, but who knows in New York. Anyway, that reasoning hasn't panned out so far. The Knicks are a dumpster fire and soul searching. Frank still got a while to go before reaching, but I guess that's okay since the Knicks said they were in it for the long term anyway. But when you cut all the BS, yes, the Knicks probably 1000% regret not taking Mitchell, as they've still got no cornerstone, and none of the free agents thought to have been going there have signed on the dotted line yet. I don't know that this will ever happen under James Dolan. However, Donovan Mitchell is likely 1000% not regretting being passed up by the Knicks. Dennis Smith went to Dallas and actually immediately showed promise. He was averaging 15 points and 5 assists, and while it wasn't efficient, it was flashes of what the Knicks fans wanted over Frank. And then Luka Doncic happened. Smith was traded, Knicks fans got got what they wanted, or didn't want, and now he's on the trade block after what has been a pretty brutal and regressive season for him. Mitchell probably could have been pretty successful in Dallas for that year, but absolutely nobody there is losing sleep when they drafted a guy that basically already has a Hall of Fame resume. The Mavericks are fine with this. However, rack up another miss in this series for Sacramento, as they drafted Zach Collins and traded for the 15th and 20th pick, although it's hard to blame them. With the 5th and 10th pick, they did have the opportunity to take both Fox and Mitchell. However, after picking up Fox, they also had Buddy Hield, and Bogdan Bogdanovic would begin his NBA career there, so similar to the Lillard miss, it seems like it wouldn't have made sense to have another guard that needed the ball. Still, the Kings could build an all-time team out of players they passed up in the 2010s. Zach Collins has had a very average career thus far, and I'm not sure anybody expects a whole lot in the future, but yeah, very weird situation because Sacramento definitely didn't have the motive to go out on a limb for Mitchell, but it still sucks that they missed him. Malik Monk was the shooting guard the Hornets chose in hopes that he'd eventually be a formidable backcourt partner to Kemba Walker. Yep, swing and miss. This is probably the team that's hurting the most, as if they would have taken Mitchell, Kemba would have probably ended up staying. In fact, it was reported that on draft night, head coach Steve Clifford was overruled as he wanted the team to take Mitchell. However, the Hornets brass was caught off guard by the fact that Monk was even still available after 10 picks, so they had no plans of letting him slip by. Monk ended up having 19 coaches decision DNPs in his rookie year, so with Clifford's enthusiasm over Mitchell, I'm willing to bet he and Kemba would have made a nice backcourt tandem. Charlotte has pieces, but yeah, this one stings. Also, still too early to give up on Monk, but we haven't seen much more than flashes from him so far. And finally, the player drafted before Donovan Mitchell. It is yet again the Detroit Pistons missing out on elite talent in favor of Luke Kennard. In all fairness, he's currently having his best season, averaging 16 points and shooting 40% from 3, which explains why the Pistons are currently trying to deal him. Sell high, I guess. But for a team that has been totally irrelevant for around 10 years, this one has to hurt. Pistons fans have seemingly never gotten along with Reggie Jackson, and they didn't have much going on around the perimeter at the time, so they could have taken Mitchell, who would have had free reins to explore his game and had a formidable core between he and Drummond. Instead, they wound up trading for Blake Griffin, and depending on how he recovers from this recent knee injury, that may or may not have been one of the bigger mistakes in recent memory. He performed well last year, but also had a history of injuries coming with that expensive contract. Overall, in the end, it seems that Donovan Mitchell is exactly where he needs to be. From the time he was drafted, he'd expressed his love for Utah over a place like New York, and the Jazz have had one of their more exciting stretches in recent memory since his drafting. He now forms an all-star duo with Rudy Gobert, on a team that could be considered a dark horse for the Western Conference champions in just his 3rd season. It probably won't happen this soon, but the kid's got an extremely bright future ahead, and the Jazz got him for virtually nothing that night. As a 13th pick, he's currently competing to have been the best pick of the 2017 draft, and that just goes to show what an unforgiving game it is.